Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. Hope that you're doing well. Welcome back to the Cheap Fragrance Thunderdome. Talking about fragrances that are cheap in price, but rich in smell. So essentially what I'm talking about here is they smell like they should cost more than they cost, because they don't cost nothing. They cheap. Super cheap. Assuming you buy them from discounters. Again, if you go and you try to find one of these at full retail, that's on you, man. You defeated the entire purpose of the video. So we're gonna be doing that, talking about these cheapies that smell oh so nice. And I'm also gonna be doing a giveaway of one of these fragrances, a full bottle that I went ahead and picked up for you guys. I'm gonna be gifting that to one of you. So let's jump into it, guys. Let's tackle these 10 fragrances, technically 11. I snuck a bonus one in here, but they don't smell so cheap. Let me hit you guys with those codes. Gents10, save yourself 10% off both Max Aroma and twistedlily.com. I'll link all this in the description, including the fragrances, links. And then luckyscent.com, the code has changed. Instead of Gents10, it's 10 Gents. That will get you 10% off that website as well. So you're looking for niche fragrances that you can only find at retail, then my friends, you're in luck because you'll save 10%. You know what? I'm gonna start with 2 fragrances in one because it's the same house, and I usually try not to go with like multiple fragrances from the same house in these lists. But this house has so many options for super cheap that I had to put in a couple. It's Azzaro. This is Azzaro Pour Homme, and this is Azzaro Solorissimo Marittimo. Those names are way different, right? This one is just Pour Homme, and then this one, Solorissimo. So this is a vintage bottle of the fragrance, but if you buy it new, it's gonna look pretty similar to this. It's a great designer fragrance, a great barbershop fragrance that costs next to nothing, and it's gonna have you smelling very classy, gentlemanly, sophisticated, all that good stuff. You don't see too many barbershop fragrances coming out anymore, especially in the designer realm. Once upon a time, everybody had one. If you didn't have a barbershop fragrance, you weren't a real fragrance house. But nowadays, they're not as trendy anymore. Though we all know how stuff goes, eventually there's gonna come a time in the future where like every fragrance that's coming out for men is a barbershop fragrance, everything being cyclical, you know, everything going in cycles. But for now, that's going to appeal more to guys, probably middle-aged and older, who do appreciate those more old school masculine scents. For the price, an absolute steal. And then this bad boy right here, you can probably tell by the coloration, this is more of a summertime fragrance. It's fresh, it's a little bit sweet, has a really nice aquatic feel to it. Performance could maybe be a little bit better, but for the price, it is once again a steal. Actually, I like this whole Solorissimo line. If you can pick these up for under $30, each one of them is worth checking out. So this one, fantastic for high heat situations, casual wear to the office, anything like that, and smells much better than you'd expect for the cost. And as I said, the presentation is actually really nice too. After that, I'm going with this Halloween Man X. I love Halloween Man X. When this first came out, I really just fell for it right away. I dig what it does with the roasted coffee in here, that little bit of a booziness that it has, that leather. It's a great masculine scent. I think it's the best in the Halloween line. It's definitely the one that I would keep if I could keep only one. Performance is really good, great fall and wintertime fragrance, and a surprisingly big compliment puller as well. And I would say if you're a fan of fragrances like Ferragamo Uomo or Ferragamo Uomo Signature, that you should like this as well, because the way the coffee is used in here is a bit similar to those. And then the tonka that's in here is also going to kind of tie it in with those as well. Now one that's a bit more under the radar, this is Animal Seduction. Now this bottle is hideous. It looks kind of like those cars that maybe got jacked up, they got messed up, and the person that owned the car couldn't afford to get it like fixed and repainted correctly. So then you just go to your friend and you're like, hey, can you paint this? And then they like paint your car with house paint or something, but it feels smooth. So there's that. Cap is really lightweight, cheap looking, has like a faux leather kind of deal on top of the cap, but fragrance is nice. It actually smells a little bit like a blue fragrance. You wouldn't expect that when you look at this. It's all blacked out. It looks kind of like an alien spaceship kind of deal, or like that Elizabeth Taylor fragrance Passion, I think it's called. But yeah, it's not actually a really dark fragrance. It's not a heavy fragrance, you know, no incense or anything like that. It's more blue fragrance sensibilities. You may find some similarities to fragrances like Dylan Blue or Bleu de Chanel in this fragrance, though it doesn't really smell exactly like either of those. It's just kind of an under the radar, super versatile, everyday wear kind of fragrance. Like I said, blue fragrance versatility, compliment factor, all that stuff right here. And it doesn't cost much at all. I've seen some people say they don't get great performance with that one, but for me, it works fine. After that, let's talk about Yope Homme Ice. And what's that? Ooh. Yeah, I got one of these for you guys. So we're going to be doing that giveaway for the Yope Homme Ice. So stay tuned. We'll talk about that later, but that's what we're giving away. See that? Still sealed, which you would hope it is, right? Because I mean, it's not really expensive. It's not like I went into a crazy debt to get that bottle. So Yope Homme Ice, this is another fragrance that's kind of like mistaken identity. With Animal Seduction, you look at this and you think dark, heavy, incensey, whatever, and then it's really not. With Yope Homme Ice, you look at this and you think, oh, it's gonna be like an iced citron, kind of a lemonade kind of feel to it, maybe, you know, similar to Dior Homme Cologne or something like that, because the name is ice and then the bottle is kind of icy, watery looking. It's really not. No, I mean, it has some freshness to it, but this is not really what you would expect. Actually, one of the main notes that you're going to pick up from this is plum. And plum is not a big time go-to note for summertime fragrances. But it's not just plum. There's also clary sage and sandalwood and tobacco. You almost feel like they came up with the name beforehand. They were like, we're going with ice. It doesn't matter what the fragrance is. We already got the bottles made. That's what it's got to be. And they just rolled with it. Now, you can use this in summer. It's not crazy heavy, but I would say it's better suited for spring and fall. I think the quality is very nice. Actually, the presentation here is good. It's nice and heavy, feels good in the hand, looks good on a shelf. Performance is nice. Once again, the quality much higher than you would expect. After that, Commuto Terra. This is one where I don't actually like the presentation all that much. Now, it's not that this one looks terrible. It's just kind of plain. And then that leather sort of feeling on the outside here, it just feels really plasticky. Kind of like if you held the bottle very much, like used it a whole lot, that it would start rubbing off on your hand or something. But that's not a big deal. As always, like I say, it doesn't really matter how the presentation looks. It's more so how it smells. And this one, really nice. Smells similar to Versace Eros a little bit. So it's going to give you that similar kind of feel, that sweetness, that mass appeal, that compliment factor. You get that in here just like from Versace Eros. And interestingly enough, we got another one here where the name doesn't match all that much. The name Commuto Terra, you're thinking earth, you're thinking patchouli, you're thinking soil notes, you know, kind of a dirty feel to it potentially. And then you get Versace Eros. Commuto Eros. Next, after that, let's talk about this. Dunhill Desire Gold. Now, Dunhill Desire, that whole line is cheap. Like any of the Dunhills that come in this little flask style bottle, none of those are all that expensive. This one actually didn't even really get announced by the brand. They didn't claim it. The word was that there was a store that wanted some exclusive Dunhills, and then Dunhill made this for them. And then Dunhill was basically like, if it sells well, we'll do more of them. We saw something similar with Mont Blanc Individual Tonic and Mont Blanc Starwalker Extreme. And now those are a little bit easier to find. So back to Dunhill Desire Gold. This is a Creed Aventus style fragrance. So that's what you're in for with this one. It's very obviously inspired by Creed's Aventus, smells very similar to it. It does have more of an emphasis on the fruit, on that pineapple, on that sweetness, that freshness off the top, which you could probably guess just by the coloration here, the gold, you know, tying in gold with pineapple, yellow color. It smells really good though. Surprisingly good, actually. Even smelling this blind, it smells much better than you would expect for the cost here. It doesn't have as much of maybe that smokiness as you would find in Creed's Aventus and some of the other alternatives to the fragrance, but if you want one that's fruit forward, check that out. Next up, Dirty English. Now this is a newer style Dirty English bottle. The older style bottles, which I do have one of, they have a heavy metal cap with like a little charm that hangs down off of it, and those do sometimes command a premium, but if you buy it nowadays, it just comes with this dinky little plastic cap. It's not really that nice. There is a slight difference between the older pre-reformulation bottles and these new ones, but it's not worth paying a big premium for. I've contrasted, I've compared. The difference isn't big enough to get worked up about. So this fragrance is quite woody. It has oud in there. It has leather. It has actually a multitude of wood notes. It has some fresh spice, a little bit of warm spice as well. And for a time, this was one of those cheapy du jours, one of those cheap fragrances that everybody talked about. Like, oh, you got the dirty English, you got to get your hands on it. It's really nice, good quality. And over time, especially after the reformulation and the bottle got not quite as attractive, not quite as nice looking, it fell out of favor. People stopped talking about it. People stopped caring. You can find this in the mid $20 range. And at that price point, it's a really nice pickup. Actually smells a little bit similar, vaguely similar to the discontinued Gucci Pour Homme, which is way more expensive than this nowadays. Dirty English is another one that could use a little boost performance-wise, because you would think with all those woods and the leather and the this and the that, and the similarity to Gucci Pour Homme, that it would be a beast. It's not terrible. It's not a beast. All right, guys, let's cover that giveaway for Yope Homme Ice, and then we'll wrap up the list. Now, I gotta tell you guys once again, and I know some of you are gonna roll your eyes, but I gotta do it because I get so many emails to this day. I get them every single day. Listen, guys, okay? Are you listening? Open your ears. Listen. I will not comment below and say, hey, message me on Telegram, message me on WhatsApp. I won't do that. I'll post the winner after about 10 days, maybe 14, but somewhere in that range, on the community tab. And then if you win, just hit me up, email me. I'm not gonna tell you to Telegram me. I'm not gonna tell you to text me. And I'm not gonna ask you for your whole rundown of all your information and tell you to send me money. Okay, that's a scam. So just please, that's not me. In the comments below, Telegram, blah, 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 that's not me. All right, giveaway. You have to be subscribed, you have to like the video, you have to leave a comment below saying you want to be entered in the giveaway. And all you got to do is just let me know what's your favorite cheap fragrance. That's it. That way I know you actually paid attention. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be something in this list. Anything. Like I said, 10 to 14 days, pick a winner, post it up on the community tab. If you're the winner, email me your information. I'll pack this up, boop, 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 send it out to you. Great, have a good day. There we go. So Yope Homme Ice, still sealed. What's the batch code here? 1099. Barbados Vintage up next. Barbados is a house that has just a whole smorgasbord of killer fragrances. Some of the fragrances that used to be really cheap have been discontinued and now they're not really cheap, but at one point in time they were. Pretty much everything Barbados at one point was cheap, except for maybe some of the older ones that never caught on, were limited editions and stuff like that. Anyway, back to this. This fragrance has a whole lot of notes, a lot going on, but ultimately what you want to pull from this is the tobacco, this warm spice that it has. It really kind of sparkles, has an effervescence to it, has a really nice woody backbone to it as well. Bit of suede in there. Quality here, so high. Barbados Vintage is awesome. Favorite from the house. After that, Lacoste Style in Play. Very affordable, like most fragrances from Lacoste. And Lacoste does fresh, sporty scents really well. A lot of times they're not maybe doing anything hyper unique, but they still accomplish what they set out to do, which is to make something sporty, but a little bit classy and very easy to wear, very approachable. They do that great. This one is fresh, but it has like a little richness to it, a little more depth than you might expect. Actually, a touch of like a dustiness to it. It has a really nice green apple note off the top, almost plum-like to an extent as well. So it's a fragrance that I think would work very well in spring or fall. And you could also potentially stretch it out, use it in summer or winter. A lot of versatility here. The sweetness, I think, is what makes that scent because it carries out throughout the entirety of the fragrance for me. And it's one that I actually sat on for a long time. Owned it for a long time and I wore it years and years back and then just kind of forgot about it. And then over the past maybe 6 months, started to bust it out a couple times and I was like, man, I forgot how good this stuff is. Last fragrance is Stash by Sarah Jessica Parker. You would say, wait, man, Sarah Jessica Parker, like, I can't wear that, right? Well, I think you can, actually. It's unisex. And some people even think unisex leaning masculine, believe it or not. And that's because it's a very woodsy fragrance. And that's really the main thing, the drawing point of the scent is all these different woods that it has that you can pick up pretty much right away. Also has a bit of olibanum in there, so you get this light bit of an incensey waft, a little smokiness. It is a fragrance that smells really sexy off women, but guys can pull it off just as well. And Stash is a fragrance that was hyped heavily when it first came out. It was like one of the best celebrity fragrances. Nowadays, people, they probably talk about Ariana Grande Cloud. Like, oh, Cloud, wow, it smells like BR 540. Stash, when it came out, was hyped just about as much as Cloud, but then it just kind of fell off. People didn't talk about it as much anymore, but it still remains as an awesome fragrance. It has been a little more difficult to find lately, but it has started to pop up at discounters once again and for a good price. So there we go, guys. Technically 11 fragrances that have a cheap price, smell very rich, and also a giveaway. Don't forget about that. Thank you guys for hanging here with me. Thank you for your support. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later. It's a great designer bug. I still love this one.